The Immaterial Games Podcast with these guys.
There, no more distractions. Except I'm seeing a barbecue out the window.
What? You're having barbecue outside the window?
No, someone else is having a barbecue. They didn't invite us.
They are bastards.
They are, however, adhering to social distancing rules. It is just a family barbecue. They all live in the same house. It's all good. We're all following rules. Speaking of following rules, let's break them. This is the Immaterial Gamers Podcast. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Ryan.
Hi, yes, my name is Ryan, and that voice you're hearing there is Darius. And it's just us two.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Yeah.
I hope not too bored with another, how much? 2-3 weeks of quarantine?
Another 3 weeks minimum.
Yeah, another 3 weeks minimum. Sounds good.
Honestly, I was expecting an email from my work just to come in, just like, we'll look at starting a phased reopening. No, they didn't. Good on them. They emailed me within 20 minutes of them announcing that they were extending the lockdown by saying, we're going to follow the government advice. We'll see you on May the 11th, something like that. First Monday after, provided they don't extend it further.
Yeah.
So, I'm Ryan.
And to be honest, it doesn't change much for me because I still have to go to work. I still have to work.
Yeah.
I have to still using the public transport.
You got yourself the gloves and the mask?
Yeah, I do have the mask. Gloves, I do only kind of tend to wear them traveling to work, not from work, because it's too hot.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it, as well? It's warm. It's nice and
It
warm,
is.
apart from like one.
Finally. Well, finally. It would be better if we could go out, actually.
It would be nice. It would. But, yeah. No, I was looking and double checking on my furlough agreement. And, as a furloughed employee, I'm not allowed to work anywhere else for pay. And I'm thinking, oh, will this affect Immaterial Gamers? No, because we're not a business and we're not getting paid yet.
So until that time,
work on it like it's the only thing I can work on.
Yes.
But to be honest, it's the only thing keeping me bloody sane. So, that's just how that's going to work. But what have we got today? What have we got this week? Well, we've got games that we've been playing, but me and Darius have got a nice little discussion because we've both been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we've both been slightly spoiled.
Is it remake or remade?
It's Remake. Whether I said it wrong or right the first time doesn't matter. I've corrected myself. But so we've got some talk about that, and a little question that we're gonna ask and probably answer. Has there been any real big news this week?
News time.
To be honest, I have not followed any.
Yeah, no have I.
Apart that the Microsoft is want to release a new edition, I would say, or new color scheme of their Xbox, the current Xbox.
Why?
Themed as Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yeah.
2070.
I see that. Yeah, so it's going to be like cobalt blue and not cobalt blue, more blue steel. And
It's
yellow.
kind of like it's light. It's illuminating color in the dark.
Yeah.
So I would say that's quite neat feature to to have the console like glow in the dark.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? And I like the look of the little pad that comes with it as well. So that half steel, half black.
Mm.
And the red buttons, though, part of what I consider about a decent Xbox pad is that not only do you have the letters which make what button to push, but they're also color coded for those that do look down the pads like that. And muscle memory isn't just an inherent gift, because that's what I sort of appreciate. It's like I appreciate in like games with QuickTime events, the odd game where the QuickTime button prompt is on the side of the screen that would relate to the button that you would push to do it. So, if it gives you a prompt for Y, which is, on an Xbox controller is the top button, the button prompt would come from the top. Simple games design, but, very effective. So, yeah, so you got the Cyberpunk.
I still don't remember the positions of the keys on Xbox controller.
Oh, no.
I do, because I keep using, even now if I'm playing on something on PC and I want to use the pad, I'm still using PlayStation 4 pads.
Yeah.
So for me, where the things are, the buttons Y, X, A, or B, that's always the like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, true. But think of it this way: at least it wasn't the original Xbox controller. You know, A, B, X, Y, and black and white. So glad they removed them going forward. It was like, oh, we'll try and do a Nintendo thing and just make all the buttons. But at least Nintendo had a design that, while odd, functioned.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's just old man gaming complaints. So what's the other one? I love Streets of Rage. That's a statement, but it also does lead to a little bit of news. Finally, after years, there is now a release date for
Wasn't it
Streets of Rage
like a
4.
old arcade game?
It was never actually an arcade game. Well, it was an arcade beat 'em up style game
Yes.
for the Mega Drive or for the Genesis for the Americans listening.
All right. Yeah. So we're talking about the same thing then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, ex-cops going through to take on a corrupt regime that had bought out all the cops.
Hmm.
And then, that was a normal, decent story. And then it went to robots and bombs and, replacing the mayor with a clone, and things went a little bit weird. But no, they've now brought out the release date for the long-awaited Streets of Rage 4. Ryan has got that on his wish lists. He will be getting that because, my God, Streets of Rage games are fun. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I never was a big fan of playing those kinds of games. Not sure why. I just don't.
Oh, it had the best subversive. That's a word we're going to be using a lot today. Game mechanic in that you'd get to the final boss, and he would ask you and your second player, if you were both playing at the same time, if you would become his right hand man. If you both rejected it, you would fight him. It'd just be the final boss. If one of you accepted and the other didn't, you would fight to the death between each other. And then, depending on the survivor, you would either then take on the final boss, or you'd do the other option, which is if you both said you would become his right hand man, you'd fall down a trapdoor and have to repeat the 3 levels leading up to him again before then taking him on. And yeah, it also had the other mechanic, like a bit like Golden Axe and stuff, that you could accidentally whack your partner, because it's just basically any collision detection between each other would cause injuries.
Mm.
But they're good, and I'm liking the sort of like cell shaded cartoony style of them, because it was all pixel art last time with Streets of Rage, and they look to seem to have the same
Well,
bugs.
that's kind of strange thing, isn't it? The pixel art was back in the day. That's what we had, and right now people are making the game look like they are pixelated.
Yeah,
because reasons.
What's the biggest one that's probably the biggest sort of idea of retro gaming is Shovel Knight, right? In terms of that, it's like, all right, let's make this sort of classic platformer, Mega Man style, but we're just going to have like chip tunes and retro graphics. But your hero is going to be a guy who digs stuff with a shovel. That's the new bit. So, but with that in mind, since that's all the news that's ever going to be.
Well, I do have one-ish kind of more.
Okay, go for it.
It's you did have the pleasure to play with me, I think, once, the Nemesis board game.
Yes, it was in a retro art cafe in the northern quarter of Manchester.
Yes. So they're planning on releasing a new add-on for it, a standalone kind of game.
Okay.
Which will be called, oh bloody hell, kill me, I forgot now.
That's a weird name.
No, it's not that name. Lockdown?
Okay.
Yeah, they're releasing Nemesis Lockdown, which will be thematically you're going to be locked down in a base somewhere in space.
This is a little bit prophetic, isn't it?
A little bit maybe. But anyway, I wanted to say that if the premises is quite alright, but still we've got the whole Nemesis game
Mhm.
in it, but I'm thinking of like instead of doing a full blast for standalone game,
Yeah.
they could have done just use whatever we have already, add some extras, new map, and that's it. You don't need to bring any more new things for it.
Mhm.
Just instead of having the spaceship, you just have a base somewhere on Mars
Fair enough.
with a completely different layout. And I would say that would be a big win.
Yeah.
Where right now, if I'm gonna get 80% the same game, I'm not think I will be buying it.
Mm.
That might be a first game from this studio which I'm definitely not gonna buy if the gameplay stays the same.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. So that was one of the news from Board Games World, which I'm kind of like following.
Fair dues. Fair dues. So that has been the news that we've managed to scramble together, and we move on to what's been played.
What's being played?
Da da da.
So
So
I'll go on. You
Ryan,
know what? I'll go
what have you
first.
been what have
Go
you
on.
been playing, Ryan?
Well, thank you, Darius. I've decided to do a change from my usual sort of stuff. You know, I'm a big roguelike person, big RPG person, platformer, racers.
Yeah.
I also even occasionally play WWE games, even though that's a foolish notion. This week, I've decided to play what would be called a walking simulator, a game with
And
sort of limited movement, heavy focus on narrative, and minimal puzzle solving and exploration mechanics required. This week, the game is called Tacoma. That is Tacoma, named like somewhere in Washington State. No, Seattle, Tacoma, Seattle, somewhere.
somewhere in the world, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those space station exploration games. Very short. It's been advised of it being 2 to 5 hours long. I think I did complete it in just over 2 hours, and a lot of that is watching sort of the conversations. It's developed by a studio called Fulbright, who made Gone Home, which is
Okay,
probably
I know that one.
probably the progenitor of walking sims. I mean, the thing is, walking simulator is, it can be considered derogatory for that sort of game style. It's where stuff like Gone Home was the one where people questioned, is this really a game or is it art disguised as a game? No, it's a game. There are success and failure states a little bit. One that I remember recently is, I'm a fan of the group Loading Ready Run, and one of the very first episodes of a stream that they called Talking Simulator said, "Oh, people say games don't have failure states. Well, have a look at this." And it was like the literal first part of Gone Home, I think it was, or not Gone Home. There was one of them. It was basically they were on a dock and they just turned around and walked into the ocean.
Mm-mm.
You get a game over if that happens. There's your failure state. In this, failure states would be not unlocking a secure locker. But yeah, you play as Amy Ferrier, a spaceship pilot working for the Venturi Corporation, who's tasked with going on an abandoned space station, picking up an AI and bringing it back to them. It's not as simple as that, because all the crew was apparently evacuated or died or went into a hypersleep. Who knows? So that's what you investigate. You go onto the ship, you speak to the AI called Odin, very charming little AI, and initially you go through the thing thinking that that Odin pulled a 2001 A Space Odyssey moment and just killed all the crew. No, actually, it's actually quite different for that. So the way you do it, you just walk through the station, usual stuff. You open doors. You can pick up objects. You can inspect them. Some of them have key codes to unlock little bits and to move on through the game. But the main part of it is that it does AR recordings of all the members of the crew on board the station, and it does it in a way that you enter a room. The system finds that there was some sort of recording that you're allowed to do because you've been given sort of sufficient clearance to view these logs, and you can watch the characters or sort of AR stick figure representations of them walking around the space station, talking, discussing stuff going on, of this sort of 8-month period leading up to you getting onto this space station. I mean, 8 months are where some of the older scenes happen, but a lot of the things of what went wrong on this space station happen 3 days before you get there. And the game's been out for 2 years. I'm going to spoil it a little bit because it was an interesting story. It's classic Wayland Yutani bollocks. The corporation wants to get big and wants to build a big, orbital vacation system around Earth using the asteroid belt as its function. But there is, politics getting in the way. Something,
As
something,
always.
something small about keeping the lives of humans above all else, sacred. So they engineer a situation in which they tell the AI to steer itself into the asteroid belt, cause an issue, and to dump all the oxygen to make sure all the crew die. And Odin follows that as you go through the story. Like I said, spoilers. Odin goes through with it, but Odin does that sort of AI rampancy that you don't expect in a video game. Usually, when an AI gains self-awareness, it becomes evil and wants to eliminate you all.
Most
This,
of the times, at least.
yeah. This AI, above all else, protects every single member of the crew. And so, even though it's bound by corporate bollocks, it's like, oh, I can't tell you how to get through a secure part of the space station so you can send an SOS signal to another company because this company is going to leave you for dead. I can show you how to get there, but I can just honestly say you are not allowed to do it. There's not much I can do about it. What can I do? I'm just an AI. So yeah, you go through. It turns out, the company had issued a statement regarding the deaths of all the crew 3 days before the crew even got hit with the asteroid. And you pull out the AI and you're about to send the AI back to the corporation. You plug it in, and it turns out you were part of an AI liberation front the entire time. Now, story-wise, it was nice. It was different. I was expecting the sort of narrative of this oh look, I'm on a haunted space station. The AI is going to kill me, and we're going to find out why the AI is a big evil, super evil dude. So to have the change of narrative to be that yes, it followed orders, but then had a backup plan to make sure that everyone was going to live, and then decided to go shove it to the corporation that created it, is a twist on narrative that I actually liked. I liked a story with a happy ending, for God's sake.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing more to do. I mean, the interesting bit going back to the sort of video recordings is that once you enter a room where there is a VR or an AR recording, you can rewind it and fast forward it to your heart's content. And because it usually happens in such a big room of the space station, a lot of the 6 characters are in different places, all having conversations at the same time. So you have that ability to look at the same audio recording from a different point of view each time, and you sort of unlock more about the motivations of each of the characters and why they're out there sort of in the first place. So, a nice little mechanic from that. Other than that, like it is, it's a walking simulator. You go in there to sort of learn about the world around you and learn the narrative. You don't do much more.
Yeah, you just like walking from point A to point B, maybe click something here, click something there. So you're mainly playing for the story, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but then again, like I say, if narrative is your thing, you can do a lot worse than Tacoma. It's a good narrative on that sort of idea. So I'd give it the Ryan 1 thumb recommendation. That's the 1 thumb out of 1 thumb, and it's an upwards one. It's not like what I heard on apparently had happened a couple of weeks back. A woman had asked a council whether there was a bin collection day as normal. The council responded on Twitter with yes, and she gave him the middle finger emoji. Apparently she did it on accident because she didn't have her glasses on.
Oh.
So then, honest mistake. But yeah, that was that. So Dariusz, what game have you played this week that you'd like to talk about?
This weekend I was playing Final Fantasy VII.
You
The
have also
remake.
been playing the remake.
The remake, yes. I was debating it for some time to either should I buy it or not, and I finished 2 weeks ago, I think, God of War, and I just needed a game which will keep me engaged in some sort of like good narrative as well. So I was debating to buy either Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 15.
Ooh, okay.
And I chose 7 because I kind of played already the Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
I not finished it. I've played like first few chapters.
I'd have to say, some of the Immaterial gamers, Duncan specifically, would probably be happy with the fact that you didn't choose Final Fantasy 15. He's not played 7 Remake, as far as I'm aware, but his experiences with Final Fantasy 15 started well and then went downhill.
Right.
A bit like the narrative for the game, to be honest, but
I think it's too much of a grinding, that game. That's what I found out after playing few chapters. Because I wanted to play it on PC. I did had it on PlayStation back in the day.
Yeah.
I borrowed it from a friend, and I didn't. For me it was too much grindy, and now I just wanted to pick it up on PC, just because. Well, why not? But yeah, I have chosen to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, and so far that's a good decision.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it last week. You're talking about it this week. I'm liking. I don't know. I mean, how do you feel on the sort of changes that they made?
Well,
I mean, did you ever play Final Fantasy VII?
I was gonna ask you, have you played the original one? Because I've played it. Like, I tried to play it 3 times, however, just once I've completed it. So I don't have any much of memory of what was going on. I mean, I still do remember the major things, like who Sephiroth is, who Genova is,
Yeah,
etc.
the whole Midgar thing, the Sector 7
Yeah.
incident, and all that.
Yes, exactly. So all of this, I do know about it. However, as like specific in details, stories about who is who, what they doing, etc. No, I have don't remember that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole Avalanche thing is new to a lot of people, given that one of the big things that Square Enix did in this was flesh out the characters of Avalanche. You learn a damn sight more about Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge than you would ever normally think that you would. Especially sort of with what since you're at the stage, we've discussed this prior to the podcast. You're taking Aerith back to.
Yes.
Are you taking
Sector 7?
Are you taking her back to Sector 7, or are you taking her back to her
Sector
one,
7.
Sector 5?
Sector 7?
You actually are a little bit further than me.
Yeah, I finished all the side mission in Sector 5.
Yeah. You had that rude boss fight, which, I kind of liked.
Yeah, I liked it. To be honest, I more like the fighting Reno.
Reno was a good boss fight, yeah.
That was a good one. I really enjoyed it.
That was basically a "Are you playing this game properly?" check fight. It was like, do you know how to guard and parry? If you don't, you're gonna have either a tough time or you're gonna die a lot. It's just because of like how Reno's abilities were. Is basically he would dodge everything that he had, but if you blocked one of his attacks, he'd stagger. Simple as.
Yeah. So I really liked it because it was 1-on-1 basically.
Yeah.
The second one with Root, wasn't 1-on-1. That was 2-on-1.
Yeah.
Well, and I did feel a little bit overpowered.
Yeah.
Fighting him.
I mean, we're still going to be on, this whole spoiler things. I mean, the big question is going to be leading to heavy spoilers. But how did you like the fight against Roche?
Who the hell is Roche?
The weird motorcyclist guy.
That guy.
Yeah, the chapter where you're stealing from.
Yeah,
Jesse's dying dad.
Yeah, was this guy present in the original game?
He was not.
Exactly,
He's the
that's what I
original
was
character
thinking.
for this. So they basically messed around with sort of the chronology of stuff on there. The whole motorbike defense bit. would normally have been at the end of the Midgar section, but it was being brought forward for this sort of like added chapter where you go and get a bit more knowledge about Biggs, Jesse, and Wedge. And Wedge burns his arse not from blowing up the wall to get out of Mako reactor number 1, but he burns it because he gets shot in the arse.
He took one for the team.
He did take one for the team. It reminds me of Team 4-Star, actually, and them doing Final Fantasy VII Machine Abridged. And there's the bit that they use to characterize Wedge is when they bust open the wall from Mako Reactor number 1, and Wedge is running around and he's going, "My ass is on fire! Pooping will forever be a chore." It just felt like that. And to be honest, it feels like, I don't know who's inspired who here, but a lot of the characters in 7 Remake feel characterized from Machine Abridged. Maybe that's just me. Like Barrett is basically just Mr. T.
Well, I do
Eric's
really
a little
like.
bit of an
Well, I really like the fact that when you finish the battle, there is no fanfares. There is no that kind of sound.
I know what you're going to talk about here.
And there is a specific. I'm not sure. Maybe one, maybe more than one fight. When you finish the fight, and Barrett is going pum para pum.
Yeah, but he's on the train at one point.
Yeah.
He's like, we should have some sort of theme song. And Cloud looks at him like, "Are you for real?" And then Barrett just turns around and goes, "Da da 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 da." It's like, Jesus.
And also there was the conversation between that they should have some like victory pose or something.
Yes.
And Cloud did the same thing. Nope, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, he just turned around and went, "Veto."
So yeah, this is some like small things which the creators gave us back, not giving them to us. If you know what I mean. So in the original, yes, we had those things, but in the remake we don't have them, and they making a really nice jokes about it. Yeah,
it's weird. It's like the more I play it, the more I understand like how this is now more of a sort of a passion project, and how the creators of this remake didn't want to just do Final Fantasy VII, but 3D and bigger.
Yes. There's shitloads of more things to do.
Yeah. Between the side quests, the whole thing of weapon levels to increase stuff, that's what I like as well. Tiniest little touches. You probably will have seen this. Just like the materia slots in the weapons and the gear that they have, and that the materia that you slot into the first slots that you get, not the additional ones that you get by leveling up, match the materia that you've slotted in. So I've got Cloud with an elemental materia and basically a green elemental materia, lightning, wind, ice, it doesn't matter, and the elemental blue materia, and linked them together. And I've got him on the Buster Sword. So he's running around, he's got the Buster Sword, and right at the top, near the hilt, there is just a little blue and green dot on the top. It's just like, right, I know what materia I've got linked in here, because I can fucking see it.
Yeah.
It's like Tifa's got them on like sort of the gauntlets that she's got.
Gauntlet thing, yeah.
Barrett has them in the top of the gun. Aerith's, which they now call Aerith, not Eris. Hers I can't see because she doesn't walk around with her stick, her rod, much. But just the fact that they got them all in there, it's nice. So you're enjoying it then? I'm gonna.
Oh yes, I do enjoy it. It's not a grinding game, definitely not.
No, I think I was responding to someone on Twitter who was just asking what video games are you all playing over the weekend. And I said Final Fantasy at a pace that allows me to appreciate it as well. It's like, because I think sort of the game sort of leads you down tracks in order to do stuff sort of not too dissimilar from Final Fantasy 13. And we know there's been problems with the linearity of that game, but it leads at a pace that allows you to just sort of appreciate everything that's being done.
Yeah. So far, I did not hit that spot where, okay, this is the time when I need to go back, try to level up, and come back here. So far, it's all nice and simple.
Which is another little thing on that. It's just a small touch, But if you are getting your arse absolutely handed to you in a fight, and you can
It's
restart,
probably you have a wrong weapons material equipped and your skills are bad.
yeah, as opposed to
Instead of
not leveling up. But if you do want to level up, if you restart the battle from the last checkpoint you reached, you retain all XP
okay, I
gained up to
didn't know
that
that.
point. So it's a little bit like what Capcom did with Dead Rising 2. Is that the main
Yeah.
character? I've forgotten his name. Not Frank West, the other guy. You'd gain your stats as you're going through a game of that, but you needed to save the game in order to save your progress. So if you died, you either had a choice of reloading the save or starting the entire game from the beginning, but with all the stats that you had earned up to that point. So it's like,
Well,
so you're
that's where
punished on a
Game Plus
narrative level.
coming in.
Yeah. So you're sort of punished on a narrative level for not saving when you should have done, but at least you then have an opportunity to fix your mistakes because getting through the beginning of the game would be a lot easier.
Easier, yeah.
So, yeah, that's sort of where we're going on that. So, so that's more Final Fantasy VII talk, and we're gonna finish that Final Fantasy VII talk by talking about it again because we got a spot core question we want to discuss.
The sport core question.
Well, I kind of can link it to it with a question to you.
Okay.
Don't you? Well, how do you like the Whispers?
The Whispers are an intriguing element of it because, again, a bit like Roche, they were not there before, and sort of interesting. Where we're leading on to this is leading into major spoiler territory. So if you're unsure about this, catch back up at the wrap up. But yeah, Darius mentions the Whispers because they are a massive narrative change in 7 Remake, and this is where we were talking about of there's going to be stuff that's gonna come up on here. But for brief spoiler for the ending, you change history in a sense because of these goddamn Whispers throughout the game. Cloud. And this happened in Final Fantasy VII. Cloud would regain some memories that he's not exactly telling the truth. He's a bit of an unreliable narrator in a sense about his soldier experience and how everything was great like that. And oh yeah, I'm a big war guy, but now I'm a bit unhappy with that and just doing dirty jobs for money because that's all I can do to live my life nowadays. And then some things would trigger flashbacks that would make him remember that he's playing a character. Cloud, he's not who he says he is. But that was also interspersed with Cloud seeing memories of what could be described as the future and him being affected by them. One specific point of that is that Cloud is going through Aerith through the Sector 6 tunnel because they're about to go past Wall Market. And Aerith, that's just really hard to keep doing that, just goes through a tunnel, and Cloud gets some sort of weird flashback to then cause him to cry or to shed a tear. And he's wondering what the fuck is he doing. And Aerith turns around and goes, "What's up?" And he just turns his head away, like the shy, emotionless, personality devoid human he is. Which is part of his character, to be honest. He doesn't want to show emotions because he's, so pent up in everything that's gone on. He's just easier just not to care. And so he turns around and you're like, well, why is he crying? How does he know? I mean, to us, for Final Fantasy VII, the normal game, Aerith, spoilers, dies, and so that's why Cloud would be crying like a little crying JRPG protagonist would be. Except it makes no sense for him to be doing it there. So you're wondering what the fuck is going on. And Darius mentioned these whispers, these weird, cloaky sand creatures just flying around everyone.
God knows
Constantly.
what they are.
Yeah, God knows what they are. Fucking stuff up.
It kind of looks like the mentors from Harry Potter.
Yeah. And one of the actual early things of the whispers getting in the way is Cloud wakes up, and I thought this was just going to be a dream sequence, but it wasn't. It was actually part of the game. And the whispers cause Jessie to fuck up and hurt her leg. I don't know if she breaks it or just like sprains it or does something. But that prevents her going on this raid of the Mako reactor number 5. In the first game, she joins you on that trip and then apologizes for, ID card's not working or something like that. She's not on the trip at all this time. And you know, Biggs just pops up, and you know there obviously must be something going on with Biggs as well because Heidegger is an arsehole. So there's a lot of story stuff that we're not mentioning here, but basically the end of the game pulls what I could call a Star Trek reboot. An event in Final Fantasy VII Remake happens that basically says to you for the next Final Fantasy VII Remake game for Part 2 or whatever they're going to call it, anything goes.
Yeah.
This sort of answers the question of how could you spend 40 hours in Midgar? Because now they can go anywhere they want in the world of Final Fantasy VII, and you have no idea what they're going to do with it. It is the biggest subversion of expectation that could have happened in a remake of a game. And
well, I'm pretty sure we still will get some sort of like the main story from the original game.
Oh yeah, there'll be story beats that'll still be there. You know, I still want to see the awkward mini game of Cloud having to march through doing the left right march in Junon, just so we can try and get close to whatever they need to be doing. Some of the post Midgar stuff is not really in my head because Midgar is so ingrained in there that it just sort of makes the rest like Cosmo Canyon and all that just disappears in my head. But yeah, the reason I say it's a sort of Star Trek subversion of expectation is because the 2009 reboot
Yes.
had the big thing that changed the thing because it was like, all right, this is going to be how Kirk gets the Enterprise and how everything happens, and you know his immediate fights with Spock and all that shit. And what they do right in the beginning of the film is Romulans come back from a different time and destroy the planet Vulcan. Now, the planet Vulcan was never destroyed in the original Star Trek timeline. Nothing happened. It all happened there. So basically, at that point, what they've done to allow them to use story beats and to keep it fresh but still sticking with the narrative of Star Trek is made a new timeline for themselves. And that was interesting. I wouldn't say it was necessarily great, but it was interesting. It sort of allowed them to, you know, it gave them the opportunity to mess with the universe a little bit, but still, you know, without causing people to go, oh, but actually that means they've just done a plot hole and that they've erased the timeline in this.
Yeah, or giving something completely different than we expected.
Yeah. What they did, it didn't really work very well because then they did Star Trek Into Darkness and then they pulled a Benedict Cumberbatch is playing this character brand new. He's absolutely not Khan, and then 45 minutes into the film they reveal he is indeed Khan. It's like, no, that's not the story beats you should be able to change. You could have actually made that where Khan just turned out to be, and you know, there and was a massive good guy rather than just this crazy psychopath. But you know, what the big question is,
Are you trying to say Cloud will go crazy?
Will Cloud go rogue?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. No, just there's a particular thing that comes up. Cloud has a conversation with Sephiroth later in the game, apparently, and Sephiroth says to him, "These are the 7 seconds that you get a second chance with," or something like that. I don't know it myself because I haven't got there, so I don't know the full quote. But that apparently directly relates again to Aerith's death. It takes Sephiroth exactly 7 seconds to jump from his platform to skewering Aerith like a shish kebab. So he's just taunted Cloud with a, oh, well, there you go, you got another chance for a 7-second decision. It's like, you dick. But that's the sort of like story beats that I sort of like on there. So my question is, given that this is very interesting for how Square Enix can now take Final Fantasy VII Remake forward, which here's the thing, I'll source What Culture for this. One of their writers specifically thought this now could be considered a sequel rather than just a remake or something like that. Yeah, because of the whole, oh look, they're getting flash forwards. Which how can they get flash forwards if they've never experienced it before? And given the whispers and all that. So the question is,
so maybe they're trying to do something like with well, there wasn't much of a story in Final Fantasy Dissidia, which brought all the characters from different fantasies just to battle each other.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is they done it to save the universe.
Yeah, because there were these cycles, weren't there, that happened, and you just happened to be in the 12/13th cycle.
Yeah, and that's how I see it's something happening with this game. They might later on have the choice not to save one life but many, quoting Harry Potter.
Save the few to save the many, or sacrifice a few to save the many, all that business.
Yes, so that's why we had the flashes of Zack.
Yes.
And just thinking about that, we might be able to control Cloud and Zack at the same freaking time.
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh, the heck!
That'd be fun because that basically Cloud's style is just Zack's style inherited, isn't it? So
Exactly. And then what that can mean to the story that you died. Well, no, I'm alive. It might like change everything.
yeah, and this is what we mean by
So
you know,
because Cloud is Cloud because of Zack.
Yeah.
Because of his death. So if Zack would be alive, Cloud would not be this person who he is.
Yeah.
He would still be probably a soldier first class somewhere doing dirty work for Shinra.
It's it's a thing, and that's why it leads to stuff like characters like Roche. It's like
That's why
there are still soldiers around.
And to link to it, if Zack would be alive, then Cloud seriously can go rogue, and then they can have a nice battle with each other.
Oh, Jesus
I know,
Christ.
I'm getting carried away.
Getting goosebumps at the thought of it. So we bring on the question.
Well,
we've
think
had our
about
setup.
Sephiroth. Think about Sephiroth. Sephiroth was a good guy.
Yeah, and then he realized
5 years. Yes, 5 years pure Final Fantasy VII. He was a really good guy.
Was that before Crisis or Crisis?
Before Crisis, because in Crisis Core he changes. He's going the wrong way.
I was trying to remember the other one-winged angels in that because there was a whole group of them.
So think about it. If we're changing the timeline right now, what can happen to Cloud? Because we think Cloud as a hero, as back in the day people saw Sephiroth as a hero.
Yeah.
Would Cloud go the same dark path as Sephiroth? Because they are kind of like identical. It's in many times in the stories they're referring to. It's not they are like clones of each other or something like that.
Oh,
So yeah, it's just like bring me the second part right now.
Well, we've got to complete the first part and just get hit with the ending anyway ourselves. But the question that I was looking at bringing up was, given what Final Fantasy VII Remake has done, for good or ill, I mean, people's opinions of what happened in the ending are mixed. For me, as a narrative person, this is right down my street. It's like I actually liked that with Star Trek as well. It's just like, oh right, hold on, they've just changed the rules. I would love this. So the question I'm looking at is, in terms of a risk standpoint, if there were going to be any other big remakes. I mean, we look at Resident Evil remake and and what they did with it. Should developers take more risk and subvert expectations more often, or should they just not do that and just stick with just remaking the game? I mean, where would you feel on that?
Well, I would say this is a really tough decision and topic to discuss, because one way people want old great memories, characters, etc. from the games, and once you gave them something different, they will go crazy and be like, no, this is not what we want, this is completely different than we expected.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, if you gave them slight changes to the story, like so far Final Fantasy VII Remake, it makes sense. It's you're still getting your loved characters, Midgar, the whole setup. and even you're getting like so far 90% of the original story.
Yeah.
And that 10%, if they change it, I would say that's for better, because hey, this is something new, something more to enjoy.
Yeah.
Definitely what they have to do with every single remake, I would say, they have to add on top of it to make it more interesting. So if we, you know what I mean, it's like, let's cut it out.
Right, go again.
In my opinion, if they are making a remakes of the games, they should not only upgrade the graphics, which this is what tends to happen at the moment in most games.
Yeah. No, I get that with you. And this
For a very least, what they have to do is add additional parts to it. So develop the characters better, add a little bit more backstory to them, let the players explore their backstories.
Yeah. Yeah, we said earlier on about sort of the exploration of side characters like Avalanche. You know, not only do you know there's like these other characters and what their motivations are, what they do, where they're from, you know, the background before it. I mean, with Final Fantasy Remake, we've realised in this there is an entire different cell of Avalanche.
Yes.
And that the Avalanche that we know, headed by Barrett, is a splinter cell of this highly militaristic faction that just wants to go in, you know, all-out open war. I mean, for me, I think, yeah, developers should take more risk with this. I was very intrigued when people were going off. It's like, oh yeah, the game's great, but the ending sucked. I was like, what's on with the ending? The ending is how we know it. How is it going to suck? So then to find out that they pulled this narrative move really intrigued me, because I was like, oh, they're changing this. They don't want this to just be just a remake of Final Fantasy VII. They don't want to pull a Resident Evil 2 and a Resident Evil 3. And that's not to say that they're bad remakes, because they are very, very good. The fact that they've decided to basically kick down the door and go, yeah, what you remember is not necessary anymore. I actually love that. That goes more into, it's weird, it could go more into the fan fiction sort of idea, except that you remember that, you know, a lot of the people working on this game were on the original Final Fantasy VII. So maybe they were limited by the hardware. Remember, this is a 23-year-old game that they've remade.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
And, you know, that's that. And, you know, there is, you know, good points for, you know, people arguing, well, they could have just done Resident Evil 2 and 3 and just kept the main story beats of the game the same, but just fleshed out the graphics and stuff like that. It's like, well, remember in that case, they did change stuff. For better, for worse, they changed it. You know, the games don't have tank controls anymore. They're closer to Resident Evil 4's sort of over-the-shoulder exploration, because it sort of worked for the hardware. Then, you know, it made sense. It was using the new Resident Evil 8 engine that they used in Resident Evil 7, which in itself was such a departure from other games. Yeah, they kept the story the same, but they changed enough into it that made you feel, yes, I can get this, and this is a new experience for me, not just the same game with a lick of paint. Because if you want the same game with a lick of paint, you request a remaster.
Yes.
You know, and you do that, and developers can sort of do that, neaten up the blocky graphics and stuff. And take into account on this, Final Fantasy VII has already had a remaster for sort of the PC and the home consoles of the, you know, the later generations. And sure, they changed some things. They, you know, made the music more orchestral rather than sort of the chiptune that they had.
8 bits.
Yeah, they added, you know, they added little mouth flaps onto the characters, you know, a little bit. They, you know, neatened up the graphics in the combat engine, so it made them less less polygons and more fleshed out characters. But yeah, no, that in essence is a remaster. It didn't change the game in any way, shape, or form. It gave it a new coat of paint, and if that's what you're looking for, go back and play that. And this is my harsh Ryan opinion, or my not him again opinion again. But yeah, the remake worked for me because, and what sold it for me was the fact that they were changing stuff, they were adding new things in, they were going to flesh out the stuff. So yeah, I think Square Enix have took a risk, and so far it's paid off. I guess the ending didn't go the way people were expecting. You know what? I'm happy to see where it goes next. I mean, if they just undo every controversial and decision that was made in Final Fantasy VII, then okay, that's a bit cowardly. But if this gives them the ability to sort of mess around with this whole idea of fate and destiny a little bit more, yeah, bring it on.
They like exploring this kind of field, fate and destiny, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think in every single Final Fantasy you will find it.
Yeah, and that's sort of how they do it. I mean, that's sort of their things. I mean, each Final Fantasy game, like you said, is sort of based on that. Final Fantasy 13 and 15 explored that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of more, but in different ways. 13 was sort of exploring, could you change fate? Could you change your destiny and stuff like that? In terms of the whole Lassie business and the task that you were given, could you do the task and still keep everyone alive and all that shit? Final Fantasy 15 was, your fate and your destiny. Can you accept it? So that's sort of a little bit more there, but that's sort of the interesting discussions that we should probably do more of on a podcast. And the way I see it, we've got time. Most of us aren't going anywhere. Sorry, Darius. But yeah, no, I think on that we will bring that up to the wrap up. So for those who are reading descriptions, this is the part where you can come back now.
Right. I have one sentence to say before we wrap up.
Oh, go away.
Nintendo Switch. Can it run Crysis?
What?
Yep.
I feel sorry for people's. Hold on, this is that bloody meme, innit? The Crysis remaster.
Well, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, that's a remaster. So
I
bring
completely forgot about this when we were talking about the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch will have a remaster version of Crysis. It's like, what the fuck?
He'll only get hot. But yeah. So yeah, that'll be a remaster. If that becomes Crysis Remake and they change everything there is to know about Crysis, I wouldn't know really because I never really played Crysis. Do you think I had a computer that was capable of running it back then? Don't be stupid.
Well, it's going to be a remaster with ray tracing and other goods from today's world.
Oh, good.
So again, you will need like a few thousand PC to run it.
Allow me to borrow the supercomputer from Manchester Met. Oh dear. So yeah, we're gonna wrap that up. So if you like what you heard or missed because of spoilers and you want to watch it again somewhere down the line, like, share, subscribe, follow the stuff, read all the stuff in the description from wherever you're listening to this. And yeah, until next time, thank you, Darius.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you everyone who was listening.
Indeed. So until next week, please, for God's sake, stay at home, take care of yourselves, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.